Hello, everybody. This is part 5 of our series, and today Dr. Abdul Wahab will tackle the topic of pseudoscience and the Western perspectives on religion um according to the modern, if we can put it, the modern ideology or modern way of thought. Welcome back, sir. And
Yeah, thank you,
yeah,
Ahmed. I'm always happy to meet you.
yeah,
Uh,
it's my pleasure.
so so maybe let's start directly in the
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
theme. So what we saw until now was actually science
Hmm.
and how science works and so on. Now I would like to give an important counter example of pseudo-scientific thought. And why is it important? Because it's influencing until now the behavior of people all over the world, and also, unfortunately, many Muslims and their view about religion. So I will be talking about Western theories about religion and maybe a little historical background very quickly. First of all, things that we see happening before us today, roughly from the Enlightenment age until the mid 20th century, and beyond that, there was an as what I call an atheistic revolution in the West.
Especially
So
in the
the West,
19th century.
yeah, okay, now it's a little becoming a little agnostic. So the way people used to be sure of themselves when they say there is no God has changed now.
Mm,
Now they will say, I don't know,
mm.
because of reasons which are obvious. Science itself is not as uh, uh, absolute as it was
Or
in the
deterministic as it was. Yeah.
So here, so the atheistic revolution was actually caused by Islam itself.
Mm,
It resulted from comparing rational views of the world with Western versions of Judaism and Christianity. Actually, Islam, many, I mean, if we go back historically, we know everybody knows that the Enlightenment age was heavily influenced by Muslims and Islam. And related to science, actually, there is the late Professor Fuad Sijin, rahmatullah alayh.
uh,
He
yeah.
showed that around 25 major books of science were translated from Arabic without mentioning that it
Yeah.
was from Arabic.
And the influence
And there are,
Kepler.
of course,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
there are, of course, hundreds, maybe thousands of manuscripts which were translated into from Arabic and influenced a lot the thought in, especially in the Enlightenment age.
and before
Everybody
Enlightenment, it
loved.
started in Toledo in the 12th century and in Sicily as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a very heavy influence of Islam, and there was also the famous metaphysics realm, where they tried to, using logics to prove uh, Christianity and to prove axioms of Christianity, and this also was copied or imitated, at least from Muslims. As we know, we have the Ash'ara, the Maturidiyya, the Ulama al-Kalam, all these people
And
were
Thomas
came before
Aquinas
that.
was influenced by Al-Ghazali, for example.
Yes, yeah. So and many, and until the even in the beginning of the modern age, you find, for example, Immanuel Kant heavily influenced also to the extent that he writes a verse in the beginning of his book, a verse from the Quran in the beginning of this book. I think it is Basmala or something like this. So using rational views in religious context was common practice in Muslim civilization. And I have here a link. I mean, you will put the links under the video for people who are
Yeah.
interested. And I'm going back to this when I'm speaking. I'm going to speak about, inshallah, in the second part of this lecture about Islam and rationality, and especially the epistemological view of Islam. The atheistic revolution resulted in full-fledged materialist, mainly also positivist systems with concrete projects for culture, society, morality, and humanity as a whole. Of course, the negative side, for example, communism, Nazism, colonialism, and even until now, neoliberalism, they all come from this materialistic and positivistic side. And by of course, positivism, maybe one of the famous names in this is Hume, David Hume. But then there is also, I mean, David Hume, he thought that you should have for everything, experiments should verify, you have to verify your thought using, or your theory using experiments. We have seen last time this contrasts to what we know today, especially the idea of falsification, vice versa, verification. So there is no verifications. Now overhauled, this idea is overhauled. There is also logical positivism, and this was the inventor, or let's say the one who started it, was Professor Schlick. Schlick, the Vienna professor, who started positivism in logical positivism. He started the Vienna circle.
Was it the mathematical logic?
Yeah, logics in general. And so Schlick started the famous Vienna circle, to which also Gödel and Carnap and all these people were contributing. And he was murdered then by Nazis, I think. It was a big tragedy, actually a tragedy which influenced Gödel himself. He was very taken aback by this incident. The end of positivism caused damage to the atheistic doctrine. Why? Popper, for example, who marked the end of this movement, the end of this whole idea of trying to prove, between quotes, theories using experiments, or trying to say whatever I don't see with my eyes and with my senses.
Seeing is believing. Yeah.
I don't measure whatever I don't have a proof of in mathematics. It does not exist. This idea caused big damage. The end of it caused big damage to atheistic doctrines. In 1966, Popper already spoke about irrational belief in reason. So reason, positivism put reason in a much higher, gave reason a much higher value. I mean, gave classical reason, gave mathematics, gave physics, gave a much higher value than much higher value in human epistemology than it actually deserves. So you find somebody like Carnap. Carnap is one of the famous members of the Vienna cycle or circle. He would say before Karl Popper, or maybe in the same time when Karl Popper started his work, when we say that scientific knowledge is unlimited, we mean that there is no question whose answer is in principle unattainable by science. Of course, this is wrong. Of course, this is wrong. Yeah. Of course, Gödel, one of the members of the same circle, showed us that there are in principle some questions which are undecidable. Like we said last time,
the incapability, so, it has to do with incapability principle.
It has to do with incapability, but it has also to do with undecidability. I mean, incapability, the general term goes for physics and mathematics, but undecidability, especially in logics and mathematics. So, so actually, it is what he's saying here, what Carnap is saying here is bluntly wrong. It's wrong, actually. It's not. It's so scientific knowledge is not unlimited. And there are questions whose answer is, in principle, unattainable. There are some questions which we cannot answer, and they will remain unanswered forever. As I said last time, it's not like, for example, after 10 years or after 1,000 years, we are going to solve the halting problem. We are not going to solve the halting problem ever if we take the same axioms like we are taking today in logics and mathematics. So, so this is a type of ceiling which Rudolf Carnap was not seeing. So Rudolf Carnap was not seeing the ceiling, and many other very prominent figures who had very good contributions. Actually, I'm not saying that he's not a good scientist, but a brilliant scientist, but I'm saying that he was very simply wrong. He was very simply wrong. And he didn't see these ceilings, so when this failed, what he's saying, when this failed, it actually damaged the atheistic idealism. If you can call it atheistic idealism, was actually telling them that the Western science and philosophy, maybe sometime we can explain everything. Like Carnap is saying, maybe sometimes maybe now we don't have the answer for all questions, but sometimes sometime in the future we are going to answer all questions, which is evidently wrong.
And I think Germany was the stronghold of idealism.
Yes, of course. Germany is always let me say, Germany is a typical case of people who take science very seriously, but they are in many cases very wrong also. Yeah, so you can find in the history of Germany a lot of cases where people, very decent people who work a lot, but they were wrong because their axioms are not correct. Now, what concretely caused the failure of the atheistic religion? I call it also not only it's
revolution.
The idea, yeah, it was maybe in the beginning it was a revolution, but with time it became a religion. It became a dogma. Became a dogma. If you are not an atheist, until now, in many places in the world, if you are not an atheist,
you cannot be a scientist.
Yeah, exactly. No, if you are not an atheist, you have problems with the scientific community. And this we are not inventing this, but this happened with many people, that their non-atheistic views were criticized and they were seen in a bad light. And this is also part of this absurd situation in which we called at the end which we call pseudo-science, because if you don't have, if you are, I mean, scientifically, you should be agnostic. If you believe in all these axioms, you will say, okay, I don't know. It's undecidable whether there is God or not, or for example, God is not an object of science. We cannot scientifically study God. You can do this. You can say this from the
positivistic approach. Yeah.
But from the materialistic approach, you can say this. But they don't say this. They insist on the fact that God doesn't exist. Yeah. So so actually, they were attempting an atheist.
I think Nietzsche, not Nietzsche, Einstein, yeah, was a believer. He was a deist. Yeah, he believed in a God, but he.
Well, I don't believe everything what people say about other people. For example, Gödel, I know that he was not an atheist. He believed in God because he has
They are
also
all
an attempt.
deists. Deists. They believe in
Had
God. Yeah.
yeah, maybe Gödel, but I don't know whether Einstein was like this or not. It's also not important. I know about Gödel that he even attempted something like proof of the existence of deity using modal logic. So this is why I know about it. And you don't also know whether this was a serious attempt or only an example to play with modal logics. So anyhow, it doesn't concern us actually. At the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows what to do with these people. So we are not really interested.
No, I mean that they are not all atheists. I mean, some of them they believe in
and even if they were all atheists, I mean, some also, I mean, the question is, are we really more inclined to be not atheist if Einstein was not atheist, or are we having our own rationality and our own judgment? So the atheistic religion or revolution tried to tell everybody that randomness is at the core of everything. You can find this theme in Bertrand Russell's, and even in a big physician like Feynman, a very good and very beautiful scientist, Feynman, but still he was an atheist to the extent that he explicitly told people at the core of our universe there is randomness. Yeah. So he tried to make randomness something like an ontological truth.
Yeah.
Of course, randomness turned out to be undecidable. Now this it's so the between quotes their God is randomness. At the end, their model, the only truth is randomness, actually, for this atheistic religion. The only doctrine in the atheistic religion is randomness.
Yeah, that the universe is chaotic, and we are trying to make it to put it in order.
No, the universe is random, not chaos. Chaos theory is something different, but randomness, pure randomness means it is purely nonsense. There is no sense behind it. So randomness turned out to be decidable, even in finite domains. So this was a very big shock. Like for example, if today someone will tell you this tell and tell phenomenon in nature is random, you can very easily show him that he has no proof for this. Yeah? Actually, why? Because to prove that something is random, to prove that a certain pattern you see in nature is random, is in itself an undecidable question. And randomness in the modern, even mathematical point of view now, in mathematics, there is now proof that you cannot decide whether a certain object is, in general, I cannot give you an object and you have an algorithm which decides whether it is random or not, and that this has to do also with the power of your formal system. There is a guy called Shaitin. He is also he is as powerful in what he did as Gödel himself, and he's younger, but he showed that the concept of randomness is relative to the power of your formal system. So when you have a small formal system, most of the things are random. When you increase its power and increase its expressive capability, the more you can express more and more in your language and in your formal system, the less things become random. You can find more and more patterns in the nature. So that at the end, and of course, this adds to the idea that it is undecidable whether a thing is a pattern or a phenomenon is random or not. So killing this randomness made people today when you ask them about the universe, made them agnostics. They will say, I don't know. The more precise and scientific way to respond to the question whether there is a certain, let us say, a purpose of life and all this, the right point, if you are a materialist, the point of view today is to say, I don't know.
Yeah,
In the past, it was no, there is no purpose because everything is random. Yeah. So randomness, we know now, randomness has fallen as an ontological truth. So there is no randomness as an ontological truth. And even if there is randomness as an ontological truth, we will never attain it. If you remember, the undecidability doesn't say that it's going to be solved in 10 years or 1,000 years. Undecidability says if something is undecided, if a property like randomness is undecidable, it will remain forever. Unless we change change logics and change mathematics. So what happens? Randomness fell, true randomness fell, then generalizations in most scientific areas failed as well. So we found out there was the idea of that logics is universally powerful. There was the idea even in the Enlightenment age until the mid of the last century that everything can be done with logics. The logics has universal powers. This failed, as we saw, because logic is incomplete. Mathematics can be ambiguous. Useful universal machines are very few. So universal axioms of mathematics, math can be ambiguous. Universal machines, universal machines are very few. This is actually a result from our computer science. Then in physics, of course, also the idea that there is a universal theory of physics which assembles everything has failed until now. Why? Because gravitational and non-gravitational forces are irreconcilable. So all the generalizations which were made in the beginning of the Enlightenment until the mid of last century, most of them failed completely. So the universal powers of logic failed, universal axioms of math failed, universal machines failed, universal theories of physics failed. In biology, universal theories of evolution also failed because there are inexplicable leaps in biology. For example, in the theory of language, we don't know, the human language came suddenly. There is no, as per Chomsky at least, there is no prior language to the human
We cannot
language.
decide which is the first language, for example.
No, what he's saying is that the first language was already as powerful as the language which we are speaking now. So this means there is no, the concept of evolution requires that you find something in between the language of apes and the language of humans. But nothing was found. All of a sudden, the language was there and was so powerful as the language we are speaking now. At least this is what Chomsky
believes or
argues. So inexplicable leap to account for language development. Then there is also something like social science. It's called social science. It's still pseudo-science, of course. It's still psychology. Still also pseudoscience. In the time of Popper, he used it as an example of pseudoscience. We are going to see it in more detail in the
psychology.
There are things like universal theories of artistic beauty, which were also articulated by many people. And even I read today that even Schlick, the guy who invented this logical positivism, or who is the leader of
pioneer in the field.
Even he had some universal theories of artistic beauty. I know of my favorite poet and my master, actually, Rilke, that he was also behind this ideas of artistic beauty. He tried to also to dig inside it. And of course, now universal theories of beauty also failed. And last but not least, what we are seeing now before our eyes, universal human rights completely failed. Yeah, let us say that this is also another universal idea, universal idealistic idea, Western idea, which completely failed. So the atheistic religion or revolution resulted in agnosticism, i.e., I don't know, whatever whatever you deal with, you will not be able to say,
So
I know
it's
which causes to atheism as much damage as religion itself, because this means that atheism is not really founded, constructively founded upon anything. And of course, religion itself was confined to pseudosciences like psychology, sociology, like we are going to see in the next slide. But do you have any question or
yeah,
comment?
this led to nihilism, a kind of nihilism.
Yeah, well,
And
here also,
this nihilism led to destruction. Yeah, as we have said that
no,
about
for
human
example,
rights.
the biggest, if you speak about the destruction, the biggest destruction was actually, let us see it here, communism, Nazism, colonialism, and neoliberalism. This actually, it is actually
Yeah, they
positivism.
are all
It's
nihilistic
not, this is
ideologies.
no, not nihilistic. This is positivism. The communists are not nihilists, and Nazis are not nihilists. To the contrary, but they are positivists. They say everything is matter. If we don't have an evidence which we can touch and see, we don't have anything. Colonialism is the same. This is not nihilism. Nihilism is something different. It's more something which prevents life to continue, actually. But these people, they had communists, Nazis, colonialists, neoliberalists, and so on. They had a certain idea of what life is and who has more value than the other.
Okay, we can move on to spare time.
So let us go to the next slide. So next slide was is about, now I'm discussing now a little the origin about the sociological accounts of religion. When exactly did the known or today adopted attitude towards religion start? It's actually it starts from Durkheim in 1917. He had something called the Universal Church's thesis, where he said that all religions evolved from more primitive, neither individually nor empirically motivated forms of social behavior. So he actually explained everything using social behavior, not individual behavior, but social behavior. So here is a quote from what he said: a religion is a unified system of beliefs and practices relative to sacred things. He tried to characterize religion as being beliefs and practices relative to sacred, which have sacred things. That is to say, things set apart and forbidden. Beliefs and practices which unite into one single moral community called a church, all those who adhere to them. So with this, he tried to explain every religion. So again, a way
generalization.
Yeah, exactly, a generalization coming from sociology this time. It's not coming from empiric studies.
Excessive one.
Yeah, an excessive one coming from sociology. So it is non-individual and non-empirical in the same time. So individual doesn't play a role, and there is no empirical evidence. Sacred things are moral forces hypostasized,
Mm.
hypostasized, i.e. assumed real. I hope that I pronounce this word right, in
Yeah.
right way. Hypostasized, assumed real, and made up of the ideas and sentiments awakened in us by the spectacle of society, and not of sensations coming from physical world. So here already he said that it is society which determines everything in religion.
Mm.
It's society. And
Mm.
this explains to you a lot of what's happening even now. Many people, for example, of Western background who believe in this, let me frankly say, crap, who believe in this crap, they will tell you, why are Muslims not so open to the idea of changing Quran?
Mm.
Let's do a committee and sit together and change the places in the Quran which don't. So this comes from the idea.
The verses they don't fit with modernism, for example.
Exactly, exactly. And I was told this explicitly in the school, in the German school where I was as a child studying. The guy didn't know why a German teacher who was new in Egypt and who came for the first time and read a little about Islam, he was not really understanding why we don't change Quran to be modern. Yeah. This comes from this idea that it is the spectacle of society. They are there is always society. There is no individual also. And then there is also the evolution from primitive to complex. So the supernatural, natural or God is assumed to be newly invented. So they tell you
By
God
the
is
society, not by a person.
newly invented by the society, of course.
Mm.
I.e., everything was supernatural in primitive societies before it gradually became natural. So the idea is that when those between quotes primitive societies saw water coming from heaven, or so they made all this supernatural, that it is supernatural, and with time these supernatural things became natural after they knew that there are reasons why water fall from heaven, natural reasons. So the supernatural, it was everything was supernatural. There were so many deities, and then it evolved to become one God. Okay, how does this process? I'm still telling you about their. This is the way Durkheim and his followers thought about religion. So the supernatural is assumed to be newly invented. How does the process of evolution look like? Evolution of religion. There is a collective effervescence. This word is, I like it very much. It comes from French, I think. Collective effervescence or excitement run high in the growing groups, force them to act in a new way, and giving them a sense of some hidden force driving them. So, like when you go, for example, to in the 60s, it was the Beatles. Yeah, when you go to the Beatles party, then everyone is so excited that they think there is a hidden force driving them. Yeah. So this guy and his followers, they thought religion is like this. It is something like excitement in the mass. If you don't have mass, you don't have religion. But sitting in the mass will make you excited and will make you think there is another force. Over time, as emotions became symbolized, this is still the way they explain religion. Over time, as emotions become symbolized and interactions ritualized, religion became more organized, giving a rise of the division between the sacred and the profane. So, in the beginning, it was mass excitement, and then with time, it became ordered, and we know what happened because also symbolization came and text and all this. So language and logic categories have their origin in religion, i.e. they are social. Now, this is an important thing because Durkheim was not alone in this. In 1917, this was the boom of positivism, actually. Everyone was positivistic, and people thought really they can attain this ideal of science explaining everything. So they tried to use, Durkheim tried to use it on social societies and social behavior, and he had two friends. He had two other friends.
Yeah. So all religion, independent of their cognitive content, are true because they are.
Yes, exactly. I'm coming to this point, that all religions, independent of their cognitive content, are true because they represent the force of society. And this is why also this can explain to you a lot of what you see maybe in colleagues which come from this direction. Even people who try to do science, even people. Of course, I'm going to show that it is
ideas are established in the culture.
Yeah. But what I was trying to say is that Durkheim had two other friends, two other prominent friends who did exactly the same with other disciplines. One was Freud, and of course, if I say Freud, this says all. Actually, Freud is Freudian psychoanalysis is the example which was brought by Popper for a pseudoscience. And the third one is de Saussure. De Saussure, he was the guy who between quotes, made the modern linguistic happen.
And
modern Western linguistic.
So you can see the relationship between signifier and signified, and
Exactly. So you can see here already the same trace, because they say language and even logic categories have their origin in religion, i.e. they are social. So de Saussure and people who followed him after that and until now, they strongly believe that the origin of language is social agreement. At the end, you just agree. For example, I had a discussion with Chomsky about de Saussure, and I found him understanding and embracing some of the many ideas of de Saussure. Some things he thought are wrong, but he was also embracing everything other. For example, like the idea that a symbol and its meaning, the relation between symbol and meaning is arbitrary. This is something.
I think this is
Chomsky believed in.
I think we have to stop here and to continue in a later part.
Okay, good.